Here we
You blew it! You blew it! This man was a bona fide scrub.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Oh, poor you.
I'm funny how? I'm funny like I'm a clown. I amuse you. I make you laugh. I'm here to fucking amuse you. What do you mean funny? Funny how? How am I funny?
stupid.
What up? It's the Participation Trophy Podcast, and you are listening to episode numero 37. Every now and then I gotta bring out my inner vato for our Hispanic listeners. I've always felt like in another life I could have been a Latin radio host. Estás escuchando la podcast de Trofeo de Participación a 105.9 in el Woodbridge, Virginia. Come on, man.
Love it, man.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Hey. Anyways, man, I'm stupid.
I'm
We
glad
are
you're admitting it.
Yeah, we are back on the mic, full effect. Jamal A. Smith, Zane
Yep.
Zaidi, Neil Dalal. I am Abdullah Sharif. Or you can call me Antonio. That was my Hispanic name in high school Spanish class. It's up to y'all, man.
What was your black name? just Abdul.
I am super duper excited tonight for a number of reasons. First of all, fat shout to my baby girl. A birthday shout. She turned 5 years old today.
Your birthdays are.
That's right. I'm a fucking workhorse out here, man. Got the birthday celebration out the way. Now I'm here. So happy birthday to her. But actually, there's something I'm even more so excited about. We have a special guest in the building once again. And I actually want to preface this introduction by saying, Jamal, you shouldn't have done this, man. For the longest time, I considered you and Zane to be probably two of the funniest guys I know in real life. But after going through this man's outrageous Instagram,
I learned it from him, man. I learned it from him.
He might have moved himself up to the top of the power rankings unforced. Let's get right to it. He is a lifelong enthusiast of pro wrestling, also an avid gamer and an alleged cook. His link tree on Instagram will send you to two places only: his personal Twitch account and to his mac and cheese recipe. So you know the introduction's real. He is also a photographer of sorts, a mastermind of the meme, because of course he is. He's Jamal's boy. He currently resides in Chi-Town, but hails out of Richmond, Virginia. And like I mentioned, he is an acquaintance of Jamal, so you know this is going to be all types of fucked up. Cue the drum roll, man. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming Eric Parsons. Eric, thank you for hanging out with us tonight, man, and inadvertently joining my daughter's birthday podcast. How you feeling, good sir?
I'm feeling honored, man. I'm glad to be here. Number one, I got to tell y'all, so after this past pandemic, everybody started like a podcast. I don't think a lot of people noticed that like everybody started a podcast when the pandemic started.
Yeah.
And I have to say that this is the only one that I can listen to regularly.
Because touching.
Yo, like everybody's pandemic era podcast is like inconsistent, badly produced,
Yeah.
And you know what? I could be talking about somebody specific, but you never know because I personally know 12 people that have started a podcast. But I gave them a chance and I just couldn't stick with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is collectively like our fifth jab at doing the podcast, and it's probably we've come a long way. One.
Yeah, we were chopping it up about that last night. Yeah, we've come a long way.
So, but yeah, we started right around, I think it was past the prime COVID season. It was later around September, I think, when we started. So, but you're right. Yeah, we kind of ventured away from a Wizards only type of show to kind of broadening,
much to my chagrin,
expanding. Yeah.
But you know what also makes this, what I think that also makes this work is the fact that y'all use the soundboard. I think that works too. That's always a good thing.
Yeah. That was kind of a late bloom for us, but definitely in the works and trying to make it better. But listen, man, let's get right to it. I can tell from what I've seen, you're a Renaissance man of sorts. Let's hear a little bit about your background, man. Where you were born, where you grew up. I know you've got a little bit of a military background on top of all the other things I touted about you.
Yeah.
And then, your eventual place where you live now in Chicago. So give us the Eric Parsons story, man.
All right. Well, I was born in Chicago, 1979. I actually didn't spend that much time here as a kid. I basically, my parents divorced and I ended up moving to Richmond, Virginia, where majority of my family is from. So I moved there when I was about 5 or 6 or something like that. Spent all of my childhood in Richmond. Loved my childhood. It wasn't the best of neighborhoods in Richmond, Virginia, but it was fun for me. My mother always made sure that, I stayed engaged in some way. So that explains why I ended up turning out to be kind of the geek that I am. Anything to keep me off the streets. So it was like, if you get good grades, I'll buy you a video game, or let's go see Terminator 2. I was like 9 years old. You know what I mean? Like, that was like the sort of things that my mother, made sure, she saw I was interested in these things and she made sure she engaged in those. Then around, I'd say high school, that's when I moved out of the hood to what was called, Chesterfield County. And that was a big culture shock for me because that was like the first time I ever really went to a majority white high school. Went
from the city to the county.
Yeah, city to the county, man. It was like, and this was like the first bit of, of like suburban, kind of like the suburban migration of Black people around the time in Richmond. So it was like, I was the first, part of a generation of kids who were in the projects or lived around the projects. And now we lived in homes and lived in houses or apartments. We had grocery stores and all that stuff. So it was a big culture clash for me. But
how did your neighbors, how were they receptive of that or not?
It was a mixed bag, man. What's funny? I was talking to my mother and my sister and my brother-in-law were here in town a couple of weeks ago, and I had them over for dinner, and we were actually talking about that. Like, we had an next door neighbor that was just a straight up racist. And he was a racist, but the most heartbreaking thing is that he had the car from Starsky and Hutch. And I was like,
so seriously.
I love
There's a mixed feeling right there. If you ever
man. Like he basically had his car made out to look like the one from Starsky and Hutch, and I'm like, man, I wish he wasn't a racist. I would love to ride in that car, man. But yeah, we had a little bit of a mixed bag, but overall it was good. It did open me up to different cultures, such as basically white redneck culture. I went mudding. I did acid while my friend did, while he jammed with his band.
Yeah.
Wasn't that good of a band. Yeah, man, it was a good childhood. And then after high school, I decided to join the Marine Corps because I wasn't going to do anything else. Like I did not like school. I wasn't going to go to college. That would have been crazy for me. So I decided to join the Marine Corps. Like, I was the easiest get. Like, I literally just walked into the office and the recruiter did not know what to do. Like,
he didn't have to pitch you.
Yeah.
He didn't have to offer you Camaro.
Yeah. It was like, we have soda at boot camp. And I was like, I don't give a shit, man. I just want to go somewhere. So I did that. I joined the Marine Corps. I was, it took me a few places around the world. Okinawa, Hawaii, Australia for only a week. I wish it was more. I did a little bit of that. Canada. I was stationed in San Diego and North Carolina. So yeah, I got a chance to do that, and that was really fun. Of course, I sort of burned down on it because I feel like I'm that type of person that kind of burns out on my own interests sometimes.
Yeah.
And then after I finished my active duty, that was around the time when I was like, you know what, I think I'm gonna move. So that's when I decided to move to Chicago in 2002. And of course, between that was when 9/11 happened. And I was like, it wasn't like some patriotic thing. It was like me just going, you know what, I could probably make some extra money if I go to the reserves. So I went to the reserves, and I did not get sent off to war, which is fortunate because my unit, we just did not get called. But after I got out of the Marine Corps, I had just been like, I was an adult. I was, I had my own job. I had my own apartment. I had been living in Chicago. And that's when I think I decided that I was not going to leave Chicago for a long time. So I've been here for 20 years. It'll be 20 years in Labor Day next year, which is kind of crazy to say. I've lived my whole adult life in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's a dope ass city, man. That's my second favorite city in the world. It's wow. I don't see a reason why you would leave, to be honest with you. It's this everything you want is fucking there. Everything.
Look, man, I always tell people, if you haven't been to Chicago, number one, only come between the months of May and maybe September. Because I don't think a lot of people know exactly what a Chicago winter is. I'm used to it, but a lot of people might not be.
Yeah.
And also just expect anything. Like, we have beaches, which I think is hilarious because nobody ever thinks of the Midwest in beaches, but not only that, we have a huge fucking beach that, basically the length of Lake Michigan.
Yeah.
What's it called?
It's a bunch of different beaches. Like we have Montrose Beach, Clark Street Beach. Yeah, it runs up against the east side of Chicago. So, each neighborhood. Yeah, each neighborhood has its own special, beach or whatever.
Neil, what's the scientific term for that?
The peninsula.
I once got scammed by a crackhead in Chicago.
Oh my!
This motherfucker came out of nowhere, like my complete blindside, with like this unlabeled white bottle of lotion, and he proceeds to stop me like in my tracks, and asked to look at my shoe. So I lift my shoe up, and he just squeezes like a douse of this shit right all over my sneaker.
Nah, man.
And he pulls out a brush and he starts brushing that shit. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I was like, at first I was like, this is kind of all right. This is cool. This is, thanks, Chicago. And then obviously, after he finishes brushing my shoe, he asked for $20.
Yeah.
Luckily, I don't know if like some vision or some ghost called him out or something, because his attention went somewhere else completely in a split second, and he ran off in a different direction. So he's like, $20, man. What'd you say? Oh, and there's like nobody there. And he just runs off.
Motherfucker had well moisturized shoes walking the Mad Mile.
I hope it was lotion.
But as soon as that shit faded away, the same stains came back.
Oh, that's just probably the worst.
Oh man!
God, were they like suede
back
too?
to the hotel room, like the shoe looks exactly the same.
He probably used that cheap lotion with all the oil in it too. No aloe vera at all.
But it was like a windshield wiper. Them dudes that just show up to your car and just start wiping the windshield. It was like the same. This dude does the same shit with shoes.
Them motherfuckers in Baltimore are scary, aggressive.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're ruthless in Baltimore.
Yeah, Chicago's a weird city, man. Like I always tell people, like we're literally in the middle. We still have like that sort of like where we feel pretty restless. We have 4 a.m. bars, and you can go out and get something to eat no matter what time. But at the same time, we're relatively laid back. We're also friendlier. A lot of people, always say they're surprised at how friendly we are. I don't think we're that friendly. I think it's
I noticed that when I went there.
Yeah. We, don't forget it's the Midwest. You know what I mean? Like this is a place where we're close to Canada, and it's like, the people are very polite and they're very welcoming. Small town feel in a big city.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't see myself leaving Chicago. I got a good job. I got a nice place. I'm like, y'all gonna have to kick me out.
Yeah.
That's what I have to do. Lori Lightfoot gonna have to personally kick me out.
Absolutely, that's great. So we know, Eric, you're a big wrestling fan. When did that fandom kind of start? What's that scene like on an international level? Do you have any favorite go-to wrestlers, groups, or anything?
Oh man. That actually goes back to when I was in Richmond. When I was a kid, my grandfather used to take me to a lot of these smaller shows.
Okay.
Back in like the mid to late 80s, early 90s, there used to be these things called territories. Just thinking of it like conference or regional of any other sport, where it's like like Tennessee will have like its own little region or something like that, and Virginia had its own little region.
Like wrestling AAU.
Exactly. Like the Pac-10 or some shit like that.
Yeah.
But I used to go, to these smaller shows with my grandfather, and I mean, this was like places where they would be paying a wrestler like $10 and a hot dog. You know what I mean? So it was like in church basements and banquet halls or in the back of somebody's bar. I vaguely remember going into one where I think it was like a garage of some sort, like it was a mechanic's garage or something.
Oh,
they
shit.
set up the ring or something. It was just that big. And I remember like I was barely outside of the garage door. So I was literally outside watching the match going on inside. And I think I was like 8 years old and I vaguely remember that. But so after I would go to those matches with my grandfather. It was kind of like one of those few kind of like bonding moments that you could have with a grumpy old man at that time. So I would also sit down and watch wrestling with him. My grandmother used to like watching it, but she never liked going to the shows. And then eventually I started to like watch a lot of that stuff weekly. So WCW, NWA, those were coming out. They started to televise nationally or at least regionally. Ted Turner bought WCW around 1989, I want to say. So that gave a huge, a huge spotlight for wrestlers overall. And then of course we know, WWF at the time that blew up. I actually took a long break from it. I remember like a little bit after the Attitude Era, which I want to say like ended maybe like in 2002. I just couldn't keep up with it. I think it might have coincided with me moving to Chicago. Like I just didn't have enough time. I was out there trying to find a job. I just didn't, back then, there was no way that you could record wrestling shows back then.
Right.
So it isn't like I could like stream them or download them. So I took a long break, and then I want to say back in like 2010, maybe 2011, sometime like that. I started rewatching some, started catching up on older stuff. And I did not go back to it like into like WWE. Like I started watching like Japanese promotions like New Japan Pro Wrestling and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so that's basically like my outlook, or that's my history with wrestling. And of course I went to live shows and stuff like that. But what I like about wrestling overall is like it's people like to call it fake. I mean, we understand that it's scripted, but
it's entertainment.
Yeah, it is entertainment, and I am always entertained. One of my favorite things about it is that you have a story they want to tell in the ring, and just think of like theater kids. It's just a play, a bunch of buff people,
Yeah.
And that's what I like about that. And as far as like, like I mentioned New Japan Pro Wrestling, that's one of the largest promotions in Japan, and that is a promotion, probably one of the few non-US promotions that I follow regularly. And that's mainly because the crowds are way different. They're quieter. They don't stand up, which I find is funny. They do a lot of clapping and applause and stuff like that, but they will get into like a fever pitch eventually. But the style of wrestling is way different too. There's a lot more storytelling, and also it's a lot stiffer, which means that they actually hit a lot harder.
Oh, shit.
So it's really cool to kind of see that. And then if you look in like, some of the other international scenes out there, like the UK has always been a big, has been a big audience, but it has been growing as far as like the indies are concerned. There's a lot of independent promotions that you can find everywhere. I mean, even in your areas, more than likely there's an independent promotion out there putting on shows. Australian wrestling has been emergent in the past few years. As a matter of fact, I think there are 2 Australian wrestlers that are currently WWE champions right now at the time, with Rhea Ripley and Bronson Reed. And if you look them up, like they're amazing wrestlers, amazing performers. And I don't think you would have seen that 10 to 15 years ago if it wasn't for like this burgeoning Australian scene. And of course can Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because one of the things that's brought me back into it is that just the fact that the respect that I have for the people who are doing this stuff. Um, they put their lives on the line, they put their bodies on the line, they put their relationships on the line. And you're right, pro wrestling does not have seasons. You know, a lot of these guys, if you're not signed to a particular company, you know, you are going to be on the indie circuit. That means you're basically traveling from town to town, or you're doing stuff within, and sometimes you might even have a regular job. There's a lot of people, a lot of wrestlers that I know of that have, you know, full-time jobs as like IT consultants, or they work at Verizon Wireless or something like that. And they come into work with like a black eye, or, you know, they come into work with like sores all over them or something like that. And so I respect that. And I think, I don't think a lot of people appreciate how hard a wrestling ring is either. Like I've stepped inside of a couple of wrestling rings just because, you know, they were there, and I asked the people, I was like, yo, can I see how it feels? And all it is, it's wood planks, and then there's like a little thin layer of foam. And you land on that a dozen times a night, you know, over a dozen times a night. You're taking bumps and you're hurting yourself. So yeah, I have tremendous respect for him. You know, like I have all of my favorite wrestlers, but I always, you know, sometimes I don't forget who exactly said it, but it was like, there's no such thing as a bad wrestler. There's bad matches, because you gotta you gotta understand that, you know,
it's matchmaking.
Yeah, exactly.
Styles make fights, kind of, in a sense.
Understood. So that's I've always felt like it was like, you know, a huge respect thing, that like, you know, these are the guys. Like, I had dreams of wanting to be a wrestler, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like a lot of people do. Like, you see, everybody sees, like, you know, piece of shit, but Hulk Hogan, or you know, somebody like that, and then you go, you know, man, I wish I could do that. And one time I was like, let me get into this wrestling ring, and I actually took a bump one time, and I was like, you know what, I'm good. You know what?
Fuck that shit.
Video games are cool. You know, putting together computer works for me. You know what I mean?
So I'm guilty of, you know, one of those guys that kind of doesn't take wrestling serious, and I will take some jabs and some jokes at it. I had a very short stint in my childhood where I actually loved wrestling, you know, in the early 90s. You know, Ultimate Warrior, Randy Savage, these guys, like, you know, Jake the Snake and shit. What became funny to me is, as a grown man, I started getting invited to like these wrestling viewing parties.
So
and
much fun, dude.
And what you guys say about, you know, it being, you know, kind of like theater, you know, an act, a play, but at the same time, the viewers, the fans of the sport, take it serious. Like, they'll sit there and they'll start arguing with each other, like, who's gonna win the match. Like, it's a real, actual, like, skill driven event. As opposed to what you guys call it as theater. So when I sit there and I watch this shit, like grown ass dudes bigger than me, kind of just sitting there like quarreling, fight, or you just argue with each other about, you know, this guy's he'll wreck him, you know. And I'm the guy in the back. It's fake. It's fake. I'm the dick in the background.
But you know what? That's the beauty of it, right? Like, what was that? What was that the last season of Game of Thrones? What was that, the episode, like the second to last episode, when, you know, the wall finally got breached or whatever the hell?
The night, the final night. Like, I remember, like, I was losing my shit. I knew that shit was like scripted and fake, but I was so invested in it. You know what I mean? Right.
I think that's what it mostly is. It's like, these people are invested in the storylines, or they invested in an individual wrestler, or they're just hyped to see a good guy win or a bad guy win or something like that. I remember, you know, like, I've been in some of those places, and, you know, like, we had the police called on us a couple times because, you know, when I was at my friend's house, because we were yelling too much. During, like,
I thought you were gonna say because you guys started reenacting the fight and shit. You know, when you get so hyped, you just start
hitting each other with folded chairs.
Put my fucking through a coffee table.
It's like, you know, we get into it because, you know, we're fully invested in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's where it slipped me. I lost that emotional investment.
I completely
But that's cool.
understand.
No, it's cool. It's fun. That's what's up, man. So I'm over here reading your live transcript. Don't ask me how I got it. It says here you're a longtime gamer. You're a longtime gamer. Is that right?
Yeah, man. Since I was, I think like 5 or 6 years old, man.
What was the first game? What was the first console or first video game you remember playing?
It was the Atari 2600, and I remember the first video game I played was that shitty. It was a Spider-Man game, and it was a blocky Spider-Man. It was like vaguely looked like Spider-Man, and you didn't really have like a real objective. Well, the objective was to get to the top of the building, but that's all you had to do. It was like you didn't fight. You didn't
motherfucker wasn't even red and blue. He was just red.
Yeah. He was red with like one little blue spot in the middle. You know what I mean? But yeah, I remember. Yeah, Spider-Man was like my first like video game I remember playing and being like, this is cool. And then of course Nintendo came out, and that's when like everybody was like, oh shit,
yes sir,
video games at home, man.
Yeah,
I remember May 1989 when Super Mario 3 dropped, and I can remember like just how people wait for like the 2K or the Madden drop nowadays. Mario 3 in 1990, I remember I was like 5th grade, I think, for me. That was the shit back then, man.
Yeah, man, that's actually one of my favorite games, man. Like I like Mario 3, Mario World. I was a big Mario head. I still am. Like I still play, Super Mario. Whenever it comes out, it's like it touches like that, that sort of like childhood memory. You're like, oh my God, I remember this sort of joy, and it sort of hits that for me. But I remember like always wanting to make sure I had, almost every major console, and I had I think I wasn't the only one that had my circle of friends who used to trade games between each other. We used to have the Electronic Gaming Monthly magazines. We would trade between each other and stuff like that. I got into PC gaming. My other friends really didn't get into it, but I was like, yeah, check out this PC. And they were like, I don't know what that is, you nerd.
PC gaming was a culture, man. Like PC gamers were elitist too. They're like, oh man, fuck that. You gotta play the PC.
They still kind of are, right? Isn't it still kind of?
I'm sure they are. Yeah,
schism between console and PC guys. I remember I asked Eric, man, I don't know if you remember this, like just years ago, bro, like way back in like early 2000s. I think I asked you about like, because I started to kind of look to the side on PC, like, well, I felt like I'm missing out on the whole world of gaming. And I think I asked you, and you were like, well, I don't think it was such an investment. It's not as simple as buying as a console. You have to get piece parts of your PC. You have to, get all these different things to make sure you have the capabilities to play the game. And I was like, I think you gave me enough of a pitch where I was like, let me just stick with this simple ass PS3.
To that point, Eric, and I'm sure you can speak to this, that was part of the whole intrigue, was building a gaming computer or PC that would fit those needs. Like I actually dabbled in some of that myself, like kind of just finding a right processor, a right graphics card. Like that's part of the fun, or I'm assuming it was.
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of like a hobby / it's not only entertainment, but it's a hobby. And Jamal, back in those days, it was hard to find, it was actually kind of harder to like put together all the pieces for yourself to build your own computer. You had to know how. These days you can find a good pre-built system for gaming. But that was exactly what it was, man. Like, I mean, these days we don't work on our cars with our sons or anything. We put together, was that Terry? Who was that from Brooklyn Nine-Nine? Terry
Crews.
Terry Crews, yeah. Instead of like going under the hood to work on a car, him and his son decided to put a whole computer together. I feel like it's still, it hits to that certain point where you're like, you know what, I like to go in here and I like to customize my own thing. I want to put my annoying lights on the side of it, you know what I mean, and start gaming. But I got into PC gaming mainly because my brother-in-law, he was working as an IT consultant, and he also owned his own business. And him and he used to show me how to put together the computers. He actually gave me my first job in IT, putting computers together when I was like 20. And yeah, man, it was like, oh man, like I could do this. I can put this inside of here, and I can create this, this big ass computer that can play games, but I could also do word processing or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I still stick with it even today. Like I have my huge computer here that you can't hear it, but the fan is blowing hot as hell because I got my video card in here. But Yeah, that's like one of the things I really love about PC gaming and overall
So
gaming.
outside of PC gaming, what is if you, outside of that, what would be your pound for pound console king?
Oh man, look, I have to
Wasn't in the
say,
notes.
I I have to say, man, you know what? I love the Super Nintendo. I feel like
Okay.
that's my number one, and then like a close number two might be the Xbox 360. Both are like
Very interesting.
revelations to me.
Interesting. Yeah, that is
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. The
Are
360
you
is kind
are you a sports gamer at all? Like, do you do football games or
of. I used
Madden
to be,
or?
man. You know what? The last
The reason
Madden
why I
had.
asked is because one thing that stuck out to me for Super Nintendo was as a Tecmo Bowl gamer, the Super Nintendo made the 16-bit version of that same game, Tecmo Super Bowl. I
Yeah,
don't know if anybody else can relate to this.
Yeah.
Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I
But
remember
Tecmo
that.
Tecmo Super Bowl on the original Nintendo was like that was like the late stages of Nintendo where like the games are like kind of significantly better in terms of graphics than the earlier games were. And
Exactly.
Super Nintendo was one of those games where after the original Tecmo Bowl, they had all 28 teams at that time. So
Yeah.
anyway, Super Nintendo made the more higher end version of that game, the 16-bit version,
Hmm.
and actually they did a bunch of original Nintendo games that they kind of what do you call just kind of remastered
Yeah.
into a Super Nintendo version.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
I loved so much about that console.
Yeah, yeah. Super Nintendo, it was like it was like you had like this great convergence between the technology and also
Yeah, exactly.
the games. The developers were trying to find new things to do with these,
Yeah.
do with the technology. And I mean, three of my top maybe 20 games are on the
Yeah.
Super Nintendo. Actually, more probably.
Do you fuck with emulators at all?
You know what? I was talking to somebody about that the other day. I'm trying to get back into it, man. Like I have
It's fun, man, because like you can find
Yeah.
and you could find unreleased ROMs
Yeah.
of Super Nintendo games that never made it to America, like just like some Japanese version of Super Mario 55.
Yeah.
That never made it to America. So
Yeah.
I got into that a little bit.
I need to
Emulators
get
are
back
fun.
into emulators,
Yeah.
man. Like it was a long time ago when I did, and then like emulator technology has been improving a lot better. Like
It has.
now
Yeah,
you can
I
find
agree.
a PlayStation 3 emulator or
Exactly.
or
Yeah.
Xbox 360 emulator. So
Yeah.
I do need to get back into that. That's one of the
Yeah,
things.
I mean, yeah, a lot of them used to be web based. Now they've got actual, like, a lot of desktop applications, and those are the ones that I think probably support those PS2, PS3 emulators
Yeah,
more so
exactly.
than a web based application
Exactly.
would. So that's good stuff, man. What are you playing now?
Let me see, man. I'm playing this game series called Yakuza. The Yakuza series is based
Yeah.
off of it's a Japanese game. Oh, well, it's set in Japan, I should say. But I've been playing a bunch of those. Like I started playing the first game because a bunch of remasters came out over the past few years. So Xbox Game Pass actually released all of them. So if you have
Yeah.
Xbox Game Pass, you can download them right now if you already have it. But it's real fun, man. It's just a beat 'em up. It's a open world beat 'em up game. Absurd story. It's like you're playing this Yakuza guy who it tries to balance between serious but also really goofy. Like on one mission you're having like this really this strong conflict with different parts of the Yakuza, but then you also go into a mini game where you can win a chicken, and then the chicken ends up being like your partner throughout the rest of the game. It's goofy and funny. I tell everybody like it also it really touches into like the Japanese sense of humor.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah,
Different. It's different. Yeah.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
I
What
think
console is that on?
That's on you can get it on PlayStation and and also Xbox as well. And I believe there's some ones on PC.
Yeah, Eric suggested it to me too. I get jealous when people get into there's some like really good game series like Metal Gear series, Yakuza series. That's why I was like, I wish I got into Assassin's Creed. I just didn't fuck with it because it's kind of it's kind of boring to me. But they put out so much content. If you really got into them, you get new content on basically every year.
Yeah,
which was cool.
Games like Assassin's Creed, like the storyline might be a little bit boring, and I got into Assassin's Creed a little bit myself too. I played, I think, Unity, the one that was set in like the 1400s in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get into like more of the equipment, the weapons, and some of the tricks you can do running over buildings and stuff, if you kind of like play it from that angle and just have a little fun with it, you start to get into the actual plot and
Yeah.
the narrative's a little bit more. It is a little bit boring outside of that, but
Yeah.
I mean, you can't beat like sneaking up on somebody and stab them in the neck, I guess.
yeah,
But,
exactly. The stealth
Yo,
shit.
is
Yeah,
real fun, man.
I love that shit.
Cool. We'll switching gears a little bit, but also kind of related to something we talked about just a little while ago in wrestling. So I get shit on the podcast for being into right-wing media, following it, like digesting that shit,
the
like
weirdest fetish.
craving it so much.
Yeah.
But it's because it is such, in my opinion, a damaging force in politics today.
Yeah.
So Eric is my kind of partner in this. Sometimes I share stuff. We tag each other on our stories on IG about just the latest like wacky shit that's going on. So Eric, maybe you can help them understand, what kind of force right-wing media is, and like I mentioned, how damaging it is to the understanding of American politics and actually global politics, but more so, let's stick obviously with the U.S.
Yeah. So what's funny is that I was thinking about that as you were saying that question, and the only thing that I can go back to is like I'm almost going back to video games. I'm thinking about Gamergate. That was, I think it was a formative time in modern American politics that nobody really saw,
right?
Unless you were like in the know, unless you were in that circle. And that was like, if you're not familiar with Gamergate, it's just basically a bunch of begrieved, gamers decided to believe that harassing journalists was the solution to journalistic integrity. And it sort of spread out from there, where they're basically using their platforms to harass journalists, typically women and people of color, as well as their allies. And I thought of that because it was a modern culture war that we've seen over and over again. I mean, they're doing it right now with critical race theory. They've had it with the caravans. What I think is remarkable about right-wing media, and this might be the reason why I enjoy watching it, is because you can kind of see how the gears are turning. I don't think a lot of people, especially in the U.S., well, speaking of the U.S. specifically, but I think we just don't like to see the way the sausage is made. Like we want to think our policies come from thin air. You know what I mean? Like, but if you look at like how they have wielded every tiny cultural, touchstone, no matter how small, and been able to sort of like build this narrative around it until it starts to actually end up in politics, I think is remarkable. Because you think about people were talking about how trans people in bathrooms was dangerous. Next thing you know, there's bathroom bans, and then you hear something about caravans, and then next thing you know, there's some anti-immigration bill. And that's one of the things I like to see about it, because it is entertaining, because it's like wrestling. It's absurd. It's like they take the worst part of the most dominant part of their personalities, and they blow them up, and then they sort of like point it towards the people that they hate the most. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You gotta have a strong stomach for this shit.
You do, man.
To be able to consistently follow up and read that shit without feeling like the need to take a shower, which is how I feel. Like I rabbit hole into conservative, media on Twitter, 3 scrolls in, and I'm just like, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
It's bad.
Now in the past, maybe a year or two ago, I would have kind of scrolled a little bit longer. But I've become numb to it.
Yeah. Which is probably the best way to be. I think one of the worst things.
I'm sorry, even that entertainment value that you get from it, I've become numb to that. Like it's not even funny to me anymore.
Yeah.
I digress. Go ahead.
Yeah, but you know what it is? It's absurdity. You know what I mean? I think that's another thing about it. Like we've seen a lot of comedy in the past 10 years. Yeah. And what's remarkable? I watched this thing called On Cinema at the Cinema by Tim Heidecker, and he has a character on there that essentially like predicts QAnon, because it was that absurd. And the next thing you know is QAnon is like a big thing. And I think it's just to the fact that, we look at like the real life consequences of this, but realize that it's come from very stupid sources. Like
it does.
It's willful ignorance. I mean, it's a very cliche term that has been used, but it is what it is. It's willful ignorance. It's they know what they're spewing and what they're hearing is bullshit.
Yeah.
But they know they can get away with it.
Yeah. It's bad faith arguments, and that's what and there's a lot of people out there, like people who go, yeah, he's just trolling, but there's a bunch of people out there that don't. Like when people were talking about how Trump trolls people, I was like, I don't think Trump trolls anybody. I think
there are people that literally drink what, bleach and crap, like
injecting bleach. I think what Donald Trump was, he's the least mysterious person in the world. He's he's gonna say what he's gonna say,
right?
And then he's not gonna have any sort of like underhanded agenda. He's gonna say what he's gonna say. But everybody will say, okay, yeah, he's just trolling. He's not being serious. But there's a lot of people out there that don't believe that. They take it seriously.
Yeah. And I think the most dangerous person now, just to close on this, is, and I wanted to talk about a couple weeks ago, but Steve Bannon he is platforming all the motherfuckers who don't have anywhere else to speak. If you're banned from Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, he will give you a platform and let you spew the worst shit. Mike Lindell is where he is because Bannon gives him a microphone like 3-4 days a week. Yeah. These audits are going on in Arizona. There's audits going on because Bannon and his posse, as he calls them, came up with this idea. And what I want people to realize is I encourage you not to get into the level that we are on as far as like following the shit day to day. But at some point, there's going to be, like Eric said, a policy that takes the stage, like voting laws or some other bullshit that just is based on a falsehood. And you're going to wonder where this shit came from. It starts on these grassroots levels with these people that believe any and everything that comes out of the far right.
And we're going to keep fucking counting on you to update us on this shit.
Absolutely.
So, keep us posted, bro.
Jamal's got like 3 tabs of gateway pundit on.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said. I totally get that the shit's real. But like I said, you need a strong stomach for that. So thank you for the enlightenment. We need those updates.
Always, my guy. Always.
Posted, man.
All right. So Eric, not too long ago, you packed up and drove solo around the country, which is something that a lot of us daydream about sometimes or talk about. Yeah, I want to do this, but you actually did it.
Yeah.
Explain what the motivation was, behind that decision, and what you learned about yourself in the process, and also with your motivation. Like, was it just a thing you just picked up and did? How much planning went into it? And the 2-part question: did any particular destination on your trip stick with you more, or stand out, or really resonate with you more than the other stops on your?
I think that was like a 4-part question, Zane.
Yeah.
2-parter with some subparts on there.
Yeah. You speaking out of turn again?
1A, 1B,
guy.
2A, 2B. Yeah.
It's that shirt. Yeah, the shirt's got him acting up.
Yeah.
2-question test, 7 different parts to it.
Look, to be real, like I suffer from depression and anxiety. I've been suffering from it for the longest time. It stems from my father, who has been, he was diagnosed with dementia about 6 years ago. And I would say that like within like maybe like a year or 2 of knowing about his diagnosis, I realized that I was not doing fine. And so when you are depressed, you don't feel motivated to do a lot of things. When you're anxious, you are sort of like, pushing away the people that are closer to you. It ruins relationships and all that stuff. Like it affected me in a bunch of different ways. So it just so happened that, at my worst, it coincided with the pandemic, and that is not a good mix. Because
not a good cocktail.
Yeah. It's like, what I think is important to know about this pandemic is that it affected everybody in some ways. I feel like the only people it has not, affected is like the ultra rich, who are like, who was that David Geffen, like took an Instagram pic of his yacht. Like, yeah, I'm going to quarantine here on the ocean. And I was like, good for you, motherfucker. Like, what else are we going to do? Like, but I think at that moment, when I decided to do that, I was like, I don't know exactly when you guys were told to stay home, but I remember, I think it was like March 13th, 2020, they told us to grab whatever we could and, work from home until further notice. And during that time, I was watching the news, and we actually had a little bit of like some people at my job were like taking bets on when we were going back to the office.
Right.
And everybody was like, yeah, maybe April or maybe like May. And I was looking at the news going, dog, no, I don't think we're going back to work.
Yeah.
And then everything shut down. NBA season's done. WWE was starting to put on empty arena shows, which was absurd. And then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just see if I can tamper down and do what I could in order to stay sane, in order to keep myself, out of my depressive mood, out of my anxiety. And eventually, like I just couldn't do it. Like it was breaking me. And I want to say around like November or December, I was like, I should just leave the house. I should just leave. I should leave the city. I should go somewhere. My original plan was like going to like Wisconsin or Minnesota or something like that. And then I was telling my girlfriend at the time, I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about going on a road trip. And I was like, you know what? I should go somewhere that's a little bit warmer. So I was like, you know what I've always wanted to do? I've always wanted to drive Route 66. So I planned that part out. Like I use this app called Road Tripper, where you can basically plot out different parts of the map, and it will show you like some of the best, some of the attractions alongside that route. So January 14th, I flew from here to Oklahoma City, and I rented a car, and that's essentially what I did. Like I got I spent a couple of days in Oklahoma City. And I went from there to, I don't want to do the whole list, but I'll show you, like, I went from there to Albuquerque, Roswell, New Mexico, Phoenix, Arizona. I went to Gallup, New Mexico, Sedona, Arizona.
Very nice.
I saw a huge crater in the middle of the desert, which is cool. I did the Breaking Bad tour. I ate hot dogs at the hot dog place that Jesse used to sell crystal meth at.
Dope.
And then like after that, I was like,
Pollos Locos.
Yeah. I went to Pollos Locos.
Pollos Hermanos.
Yeah. Pollos Hermanos.
Pollos.
Yeah, I went to
Pollos Hermanos. That's what it was.
Yeah. Pollos Hermanos. I did go there. They actually had like a little Breaking Bad corner. It was almost like a little miniature museum dedicated to Breaking Bad.
So that's an actual real restaurant.
Yeah, so Pollos is not a real restaurant. That place is actually just like it's like a fast Tex-Mex restaurant.
Okay.
But they just remade it to look like that. But if you go there, they got good ass breakfast burritos and
they're really hot on the green chili out there.
Yo,
right?
Hash green chili. Oh man,
yes.
I had that way too much out there, man.
Yeah. So I did Santa Fe for a business trip a few years ago. I didn't do Albuquerque, but I'm assuming they're
Yeah.
similar to one another, but
yeah, exactly. And I mean, like I had a lot of Hatch green chili in gas stations, which is not probably not the best thing to do sometimes for a pandemic, but it was good. And then after I spent some time in the Southwest, I decided I was gonna go see my family because that's what I needed. I needed to sort of like heal, to be around family and stuff like that. So we were as careful as we could. I went to Atlanta to see my sister. Then I drove to Richmond, Virginia to spend 2 weeks and see some of my family there. And when I was just about to come back to Chicago, it was mid-February, I think. And that's when the blizzards were coming around here. This was like 20 inches of snow or whatever. And I said, it'd be fucking crazy for me to come back at this time. So I extended my trip for another month. And I drove basically down the mid-Atlantic, all the way down south from Richmond, Virginia, through, Charleston and let me see, Charleston, South Carolina, Myrtle Beach, Jacksonville, Florida, Tampa, Florida. I stayed there for a few days. And then I ended my trip with like 2 weeks in New Orleans. And then when I came back, it was a lot less snow on the ground, but it was good enough for me. So it was 2 months on the road by myself.
Wow. Did you take trucker pills or anything?
No, no, man. Like, you know what I did?
I spent 45 minutes on I can only drive like in 45-minute increments before I start dozing.
Yo,
and shit, like the head starts knocking back.
Yeah,
I've taken like 15-minute power naps in like a shopping center parking lot between here and like Fredericksburg.
Yeah, you know what you gotta do? You know what you gotta do? If you're going on a road trip like that, what you gotta do is you gotta make sure you plan out exactly how much time you can drive. Like that's what I was telling myself. I was like
45 minutes, yeah.
Yo, tell yourself, if you want to make your road trip, several weeks and you only go, across 2 states, go ahead and do that, I was like, I'm not driving no more than 4 hours, and that's how I planned it. So
that's my ceiling. 4 to 5 hours is my ceiling. I can't do anything else. I can't do anything longer than
that. I think I did one of those days. I might have driven like 8 hours, and I was feeling like shit. I think it was when I was driving to Roswell, and I was like, nah, man, I can't do this.
Yeah.
You know, I eventually was like, all right, I got to stick to my 4-hour plan.
Right.
But yeah, man, it was just me, coffee. You know, I had a good little playlist going. I had my podcast going.
Playlist is key.
Yeah. I actually have a playlist. I'll put it in my link tree, which I will update. I will add more than 2 links. But yeah, I'll put my playlist in the link tree. But what I think, if y'all are into it, if you have the time and you have, you know, if you are able to, go ahead and do it. You know, don't think too long on it, because this was a unique moment. I mean, with the Delta variant coming, who knows? Maybe I'll have another opportunity to do
knock on wood.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the gist of my whole trip, man. It was an experience, and I still have a lot of photos I have not gone through. I took 14,000 photos.
Wow. 14,000 photos.
Wow. On that trip. Yeah.
So you drove all the way across. Where did you stop at before you turned back around? You mentioned the Southwest, but
how
far west did you go before you stopped? So that was
Phoenix.
It, Phoenix.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna go. I was gonna go back a little bit more further west, but I was on a little bit of a time crunch. I wanted to see my sister and stuff. So I ended.
And were you just lodging in different hotels? Were you booking them ahead of time and just kind of staying wherever was cheapest, or did you kind of treat yourself?
There were some times when I treated myself. There were some times when I was just like, I just need somewhere to sleep. I slept in a quote unquote haunted hotel, the El Rancho Hotel in Gallup, New Mexico.
Nice.
It ain't that haunted. Like I slept in the John Wayne suite, which was cool, but I don't know why they put the only black dude in the race.
Do you know what the backstory is on why they were haunted? Those are always fun.
So this was a hotel that was frequented by a lot of like Hollywood stars back in the day. Gallup, New Mexico was like almost kind of like, you know, a vacation spot for you know, people who lived in Hollywood. So they would have them in those suites, like they would have their favorite suites and stuff like that. So, you know, you'll have the Lucille Ball suite. Some people did not stay there before, like they'll just have regular, you know, people's names, but you know, you will have
this
like,
is where? What city was this in? I'm sorry.
Gallup, New Mexico. It's basically it's like on the border of New Mexico and Arizona. It's like north of New Mexico. And if you go there, you know, it's a beautiful hotel. Like you have a big old bear carpet, bear rug on the floor, and you know, have a restaurant, and they'll serve you beer until like 2 a.m. and stuff like that. But that was interesting. Like I just wanted to stay somewhere interesting. I saw it on a list. And I was like, all right, this is cool. Like I would, you know, I'll stay here for the night. I'm not staying here, you know, for the week. You know, I'll stay in this haunted, you know, hotel, in the racist John Wayne suite. I don't know that at all.
Fuck that. I did a haunted hotel in Baltimore, the Lord Baltimore Hotel.
I didn't know that was fucking haunted.
Yeah, it was haunted. It was haunted. It's actually it's like on this list on one of these like BuzzFeed type sites.
Yeah.
And it was haunted because for two reasons. 2 points in history. A 9-year-old girl had committed suicide, like throwing herself off the ledge on like one of the higher floors, and then a bride and a groom got murdered in their wedding suite. So and it was one of those hotels that was kind of like it was wedged in between 2 other buildings, so all you saw was brick wall, like on any side of the hotel unless it's like in front of the main street. And so when you turn off the lights, it was pitch dark. And we ended up in a room where the heat actually happened to be broken. So we walked in, it was just like this vicious cold draft that just like, blew in our face. And we're like, fuck, man, we're like a fucking corpse tonight and shit. Like,
yo, how come haunted places they always have like ghosts of tragic deaths? How come there's
it's always
died of like
crazy. Right.
Like somebody died on the toilet, and then that'll haunt the hotel, or
no,
like what's his face, the dude from NXS. Do you think he's haunting, you know, the hotel he died of autoerotic asphyxiation in?
Exactly. Yeah. You feel cold air when you open a closet and shit. Like, damn, why am I getting an erection all of a sudden? What is this?
Where'd that belt come from?
Oh man. All right. Well, each time we have a guest, we wrap by doing some quick hits. You don't get a read ahead for this. This is off the dome. We're going to get a little nice collection of things that are relevant to your interests. So you ready to go?
Yeah, for sure, man.
All right. Number 1, Lou Malnati's or Giordano's?
Lou Malnati's, man. Giordano's is okay. Lou Malnati's is more of the that's where they have the best thin crust, and that's where Chicagoans actually like. We like thin crust.
So deep dish is more of is that a fable for Chicagoans, or what? I mean,
it's the style, but it's not what we would typically get. Like it's like what tourists like to get. It's like a certain style to people, but our true Chicago style is thin crust tavern cut, which is like basically cutting squares.
Got it. Okay, learn something new. All right, Razor Ramon or Scott Hall?
Oh, this is easy. Come on,
same guy, different eras. Come on.
Yeah, 2 different eras, man. Scott Hall barely worked through WCW. He was just collecting a check. So I would say Razor Ramon, because he was putting in work. He had some
all day. Better
Razor
mic
Ramon
skills, better vignettes.
Yeah, better matches.
Which, by the way, have you ever heard the story about how when he came back to WWE at the time, he was on this medication where it would help him stop drinking, but if he would actually smell alcohol, he would start like vomiting and like get really sick. And they did it, and they didn't know that, and they did a skit where basically Stone Cold had locked him up in this room and he was pouring beer all over him.
Oh no!
He was all fucked up and like all sorts of shit.
I've heard of that. I did not know it was true though. Holy shit! Yeah, I gotta look it up.
Yeah.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the podcast. Freaking, I'm sure you've heard it before. It's with Bruce. What's his name? Bruce Pritchard's podcast.
Oh yeah.
So they tell all the stories. Yeah. So they had a story about that in the podcast. I thought it was pretty funny.
Damn, that's pretty fucked up.
Yo,
crazy.
Yo, y'all should watch Dark Side of the Ring, man.
I've been meaning to, man. I need to set my DVR because I listen to another podcast. They talk about it every week. They love that shit.
Wrestling with Shadows is another one, obviously.
Yeah. Those are dark episodes, but it's really very
Montreal Screwjob.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Coming back to our favorite thing. Sheriff David Clark's jacket pins or Steve Bannon's liver spots. You must choose one.
Yo, man.
Choose one.
Yo, those jacket pins, those can probably block a bullet, I'm guessing. But you know what? Those liver spots, man, like he straight up just looks like he mixed with like some sort of toad.
Yeah.
Like he's like a mutated toad or something.
Really amphibian looking.
Yeah. I like that look, man. I was raised with a Ninja Turtle.
And like he doesn't give a fuck. He'll say he's ugly. He admits it. His skin was like fucking crack and peel and shit.
He's still spinning that Seinfeld
Batman movie.
Yeah. Bannon's got a weird, he's got a weird kind of story arc too. But yeah. Okay. All right, we're going with Bannon and cool. All right. Gaming, Fallout or Skyrim? What series?
Oh man.
Or the Elder Scrolls series, I should say.
I'll say Elder Scrolls. I have a little bit more of a sense of affinity for it. Like I like the Fallout series. I like I do like the background of the story, but every time I play any Elder Scrolls game, no matter how old it is, I find myself being stuck in that game for hours, for weeks.
Yeah. For someone who's a casual gamer, I play mainly sports games until when I got a PS3. I got Skyrim just off a commercial. I knew nothing about the series, nothing about it. I almost like my eyes almost dried up because I would pay it for like 5-6 hours on end.
Yeah.
Like ignoring my kids and shit, like contact lenses drying up. I just could not. It's so fucking immersive, just so much shit to do.
I can even go back to like the old like Morrowind for the original Xbox. That might be my favorite Elder Scrolls game.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people saying that too. Morrowind. Yeah,
it's because at that time it was crazy when it first came out. It was like that sense of immersion, like back in 2003. It was crazy when that came out.
All right, last but not least, we're gonna go music on this one. MF Doom's wordplay or Black Thought's freestyling?
Ooh, I'll say Black Thought's freestyling, man, because you can still get some of that wordplay. You at least get a fraction of the wordplay that MF Doom had.
Agreed.
Yeah. Black Thought had like this sort of like flow that's just like relentless.
Yeah.
It's like that sort of like ruthlessness. He's basically Big Daddy Kane in that way.
We're just telling somebody also. I mean, we've for your disclosure, Eric and I kind of first connected on okplayer.com and the message board community, which is it started as a Roots fan site and it just kind of grew from there with a lot of different a lot of different artists. But seeing the Roots live, I saw the Roots live so many fucking times, and I've never seen an artist, a rapper with breath control like Thought. It's just fucking incredible, man.
Yeah,
like the way the command the guy had is just amazing. By the way, RP MF Doom. All right, we're gonna wrap, man. Hey, look, pleasure having you on. Why don't you go ahead and plug your social media handles, anything else you want to share, projects, what have you?
Of course, man. I have no projects, but I do a lot of my shit posting on Instagram, ETFP. That stands for Eric the Fuck Parsons. A lot of people ask me, so I figure I might as well tell people that.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, Eric the Fuck Parsons. And you can find me on Twitter, DropCoffin1. That's my @. I do a lot of my shit posting there, so don't hold any of that against me.
Cool. And your photography page too.
Yeah, my photography page, ETF Photog.
Yeah.
So I will update everything in my link tree for my ETFP Instagram page. So reach out to me, let's chat it up, and I'm glad I was here, man.
Yo, thank you for coming on, bro. I knew this was gonna be great going into it, and it surely did not come anything short of that. So appreciate you again, Eric Parsons, everyone.
Yo.
Sure.
Thank you for joining, man. Hope to have you on the show again in the near future.
Yeah, of course. Hey, when we talk about when Fast and the Furious 10 come out,
There you go.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, sir.
All right, y'all.
Bro.
You too, now.
Sir.
Take it easy.
Good night.
All right, man. Once again, these guests, man, they end up being so good. He's a funny dude, man. I feel like I need to reevaluate myself as a self-acclaimed comedian. Jesus Christ, bro. Let's go ahead and reset this thing. Head on over to Open Gym for some trophies. All right, this time last week we made some conference finals predictions. They seem to be holding up slightly the way we thought they would. Let's get into it with some trophy handouts real quick. First up, every defender who got scored on by DeMarcus Cousins on Monday night against the Suns. This motherfucker came out of nowhere, dropped 15 on 12 shots.
Look like Sacramento.
So to name names for the trophy handouts, Dario Saric got destroyed one-on-one against Boogie. Motherfucker was getting bullied down low under the rim. Abdul Nader, former Uber driver, loses Boogie in the paint a couple times. Chris Paul. I mean, Boogie even took the ball from Chris Paul and then outran him in transition and gets a bucket. Torrey Craig, who was brought in for his defensive prowess, ends up committing an and-one foul. Ayton couldn't stop Boogie in the pick and roll. So now the Clips are, I'm going to fuck this up.
Surviving. They're still down 3-2.
Yeah, they're down 3-2. The pivotal game 5, they lose it. They're going back to LA now for game 6. Anyone's thoughts on how this one ends?
I still think that Phoenix takes care of business. I think Paul George fatigue is gonna run up on him at some point. He's played, if they go to game 7, he's gonna play 20 games, 41 minutes a game in the past 6 weeks. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is Reggie Jackson ain't winning the series for these motherfuckers.
Hey, Reggie Jackson wants John Wall money again.
Remember the discussion about who's better between John and Reggie? John was like upset about that shit.
They were both getting paid 5 years, $80 million.
Yeah.
Reggie Jackson is showing out right now.
Reggie's balling, man.
Mr. October, Mr. June.
I want to see Boogie do well. I'm happy that he had a good series, or a good game, I should say, because a lot of people forgot he was in NBA. I know I personally, until the playoffs began, I forgot he was actually on an active roster. He came out today saying, like, look, the season is hard, man. He said this shit is a fucking killer. He said he's really brutally honest about it. So to have him have a good game against the first few guys I didn't realize they were still in the NBA. I mean, fucking Dario Saric and Nader and Torrey Craig. I mean, these guys are on the fringe of the roster. So good for Boogie. So my prediction, though, unless Kawhi comes back, I will still give it to Phoenix, because I think Chris Paul's on a mission. But, there's been a lot of talk about how good Ty Lue is in closeout games and how good he is in elimination games. So who the fuck knows, man?
10-2 in elimination games, Ty Lue is.
Crazy.
Going with the Suns. Momentum is a little scary right now. It's kind of shifting towards the Clippers, but I think Chris
Yeah.
Paul hasn't. I don't think he's played as well as he can. I think his shot's been off the last few games since he came back. So I'm expecting a lot of those shots to drop. I'm expecting Devin Booker to have, a good performance. And I feel like they were kind of caught off guard with how the Clippers attacked them. And I was thinking if Zubac was out, that Suns had a good time, but now they're going to be able to make adjustments to kind of attack the lineups that the Clippers are going with. So going with Suns in a tight game that the Suns are able to pull out in the fourth quarter.
Neil,
Yeah, I said Suns. I think
you said Suns. Okay.
maybe Clippers can win, Game 6 at home, but I think Game 7 in Phoenix, I think Monty Williams is going to get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
No, I agree. I think the Suns, in terms of talent, I think they're the most well-rounded team of all the teams that are left. I think for other teams, a lot of them rely on their role players to step up for them to make a difference. Your Atlantas and LAs, your Reggie Jacksons, as we mentioned, Zubac, all these guys, John Collins for Atlanta. Those guys, when they step up, Kevin Herters, of course, can't forget him. But when they step up, the team is more prone to success. But I think Phoenix kind of is a lot more well-rounded than that. They've got a lot of talent lined up. So I'm going to go with them as well. I'm not sure if it's going to be in 6 or 7. I wouldn't be surprised if LA pulls off another win and Phoenix closes it out at home. But conversely, I feel like Phoenix could probably close it out in 6 as well. So Phoenix either way. We'll go ahead and go to the next trophy. The ref who inadvertently caused Trae Young's ankle injury.
Yeah. Sean Wright.
Right. Yeah. Sean Wright. The squad wasn't the same after that. Trae came back from the locker room. I think he only had 3 shot attempts after that. I don't know how many points he scored, but out for tonight's game. The narratives are all fucked up for this series now. Neil, I'll let you go ahead and take it from here. I know Giannis got hurt tonight too.
Yeah. So, the Hawks come back and actually win Game 4 without Trae Young, who sat out with an ankle injury after late in the third quarter of Game 3. He took a shot. He's backpedaling.
Yeah.
Steps on Sean Wright's foot and turns over his ankle so badly that he couldn't even go 2 days later. Usually they give you a shot, you're ready to go.
Yeah.
They're calling it a bone bruise now, so
right.
It's a little more than just
an ankle turn.
Yeah.
Absolutely. For me, I've always been mind-boggled. Just why are you trying to make the court so damn crowded all the damn time? Can you just back everybody up 2 feet? The photographers don't need to be that close. The referees don't need to be that close. This is just like common sense shit.
That's a good point. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they had that the other day where they were trying to do an inbounds pass, and they literally had to stop because there were literally fans surrounding the inbounder. I'm like, come on, dude.
It's terrible. Ridiculous. Between that and even in Wimbledon tennis today, there were so many injuries on the court. There's just so many injuries that are preventable, and we just aren't doing anything about it. It's maddening.
Yeah.
Yeah, pushing the court back a little bit would prevent Drake from being all up in Paul Pierce's ear too that one year. What a meme that became.
Hey, Paul Pierce shut his ass up for 2015 that was.
Wizards still holding on to that shit.
Hey, there's a few things that we can, so might as well.
So now this series is tied up at 2. The Hawks just won a few minutes ago, despite Trae Young being out. I think Lou Williams stepped up big time. So they're tied at 2, heading back to Milwaukee for Game 5, another pivotal Game 5 there.
And
Giannis is hurt.
Yep.
Yeah, Giannis is hurt. I think we saw a ripple in his leg.
Awkward landing, definitely some kind of hyperextension or something.
Yeah.
His weight got swung backwards with Capella in a slight collision.
You had a thought, Jamal?
I hate to see guys go out like this.
Right.
Let's just boil it down to the simplest terms. Who's going to be the go-to scorer with Giannis off?
Right?
We're going to be, relying on Chris Middleton to drop 35, and then I look at Milwaukee's guard depth too. It's not that great, to be honest with you. It was Bryn Forbes going to step up now that Giannis is out. I mean, the offense is so kind of heavily anchored, and it's so heavily anchored in what Giannis can do. I was ready to kind of throw dirt on Atlanta because I thought they had a great run, but it was up now. But obviously, without a doubt, it changes things now. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
I would love to see. I'm sorry, Zane. I would love to see Chris Middleton step up in this in this moment. He's one of those resilient players that's kind of slept on and just continually makes plays, makes shots. I've alluded to him looking like Kobe several times, and I'm not ashamed of it. He's made Kobe-esque shots in crunch time moments. Again, you know what I mean.
It's pretty bold.
No, for what he is, for
Game
where
on the
he is.
line, I'd rather him have the ball than Giannis.
I don't disagree.
You need a jump shot in today's NBA.
And a free throw. Yeah.
Let's give some credit. Giannis, I think, has played very well these playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't know. Game on the line, 5 seconds left on the clock. Giannis is gonna drive HB dive into a triple team in the paint? Like, come on.
He is, but he's also gonna command the triple team and kick it out to a guy like Middleton, who's not gonna demand a double team.
That's a good point. That's the.
If he can make the pass, if he can hit the jump shot.
Yeah. And Middleton is spotty. I mean, I like Middleton's scoring.
So with Giannis,
he is spotty. Good.
Giannis gone. Giannis averaged, I think, 29 and 15 in the playoffs. Like he was having an exceptional.
And he gets shit for that.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Yeah,
doing that with basically two really big holes in his game. Free throw shooting and just really a really iffy jumper. So what he was doing was remarkable. To see that kind of dip off is, I mean, that's tough, man.
And what does it mean for the finals? Because let's say Middleton carries him in the finals. Now you got a finals with Chris Middleton led Bucks against.
Yeah, I know.
The Clippers without Kawhi.
It sounds horrible. I just feel like Middleton. I agree. He has been historically spotty. I just think in these playoffs he's made some jumpers, some shots that he normally wouldn't have made. He would have always attempted those shots. Would he have made them? Probably not. Yeah. But like these baseline fadeaways, these pull-up threes, just really resilient looking. And again, I don't know if that's going to translate to him being that productive in this position without Giannis and carrying a team to a championship. No way, no how, right? But there's something there.
Look, he's played well. He's just he's a number 2 guy.
Yeah, and, it's also been an unconventional playoffs too, with all the injuries, the injury riddled teams and everything. A lot of Twitter jokes have been like, "Oh, we about to get that Pat Connaughton, Luke Kennard, match up in the finals." You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just sad because the Bucks had a really good chance to win the finals this year, and it would have done something for Giannis's legacy up until this point that he's been kind of lacking.
Thanasis is gonna ask for, "Can I give my knee to Giannis?"
Yo, I think the Hawks,
the Hawks will make for a more exciting brand of ball in the finals, though. I'll tell you that.
If Trae Young comes back,
I'm not mad at that.
Yeah, it's gonna be more exciting. It's gonna be the changing the guard, the old Chris Paul versus Trae Young. I mean, that'd be one of those things.
Whew, that's a great narrative. I like that. Yeah. So what do we call them? Bucks or Hawks?
We just don't know without the injury.
Where's the next game in Atlanta?
I'm asking because by the time we meet next week, the series
will be over.
Probably
next
be over.
Game is in Milwaukee. Next game is in Milwaukee.
Game 5
is in Milwaukee.
Wait, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is Milwaukee. Game 5.
I'll go
Bucks performance.
Yeah, I'll go Bucks just because I'll say, okay, Giannis will maybe eventually come back in the series, but if the really bad thing happens and he just can't come back, then you got to give it to the Hawks. So.
I don't think he's coming back.
Yeah,
I don't think he's coming back.
Yeah.
Time for Neil's Kevin Werder wet dream tonight.
That's it. Yeah.
Who balled
Kayvon Herter.
Kayvon, I love that shit.
Motherfucker gonna have a dirty sock at the bottom of the hamper over some Kevin Herter shit.
He's dropping off right after the podcast ends tonight. Like no post-pod chatter.
Yeah, Kevin Herter in an MLK jersey.
I got to be up. There's a rocket launching tomorrow to fucking.
He had turf.
Okay. All right. Are we? Is that it for predictions? Nobody else is gonna call it. Bucks?
I'm going Hawks.
You're going Hawks?
I'm going Hawks too. They got a lot of firepower. Yeah.
All right. That's what it is. Hawks Suns finals. We'll see you next week. We'll keep it in the NBA. Last week we also talked about some of the head coaching vacancies. We're not going to talk about the Wizards this time because there's no developments there. So.
Oh, I'll still circle back. Don't worry, I'll find a way.
Yeah, I'm of course.
You mute Neil.
The Portland Trailblazers, man. Talk about a quick, sharp, and basically like reckless reverse and narrative. Last week we were almost certain that the hire was going to be Becky Hammon, or as Neil did. At least Neil did. But
I reverse jinxed that shit on purpose.
Yeah, you did, right. Becky Hammon, who would have been the first woman to serve as a head coach in the NBA. Instead, the Blazers are dealing with the scrutiny from all over.
I got to be served.
Oh, you gonna do that to me now? Shit.
Serve.
This is when you hit the skip 30 seconds joint, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got your wife in the car, like, oh, yeah, this part's boring, man. This part's boring. But yeah, no, the first woman to be hired as the head
full-time head coach of that.
Full-time head coach.
He's coached some games, but yeah.
She has, yep. But instead, the Blazers are dealing with the scrutiny from all over, basically, in the hiring of Chauncey Billups. It was revealed recently that he and a few of his Boston teammates from his rookie season in '97 had to settle a civil lawsuit in court after allegations of rape. The case is kind of just the can is still wide open. I mean, it's one of the same, a lot to unpack, a lot to process, a lot that we don't know, conflicting stories. But in the end, the Blazers felt that despite all these new revelations, they were still going to go with Billups as the head coach, inking him to a 5-year deal, including a team option on the 5th year. I'm going to lob it off to you guys here. Does Chauncey's past, what does it say about his past? What does it say about the Blazers' approach to dealing with his past?
Foremost for me was just that I didn't like, why was Blazers PR censoring the media in their questions? They took like 1 or 2 questions about it and said, oh, he's learned about it, he's reflected on it, and then they just didn't allow any follow-up questions. Somebody would ask.
So that answers the question right there. That answers the question right there about how the Blazers felt they were going to take this approach. They were going to completely sweep any of the news that
they had the headline to, we hired a firm who investigated into this, and that's all we needed to know what their findings were to proceed with the hiring. But it's such a weak response. Ask the damn questions, let him answer them.
I agree.
I think a lot of people just are learning about this incident for the first time over the last week or so. And, I did a fair amount of digging on it. And, it's one of these things where we're going to have no clear story. There's one side, there's the other side, and there's probably the truth that's in the middle. He was very young. I'm obviously not excusing anything, but what I really wanted to dig into is did his team and maybe his staff and agents cover it up, or was it just quietly dealt with? It sounds like it's the latter, which I find some comfort in. I mean, the fact that, look, let's be real, some women come forward with allegations, they get fucking bullied into just getting run off the face of the earth. It doesn't sound like that sort of thing. So it sounds like his circle did what they could. Portland was clearly set on their guy. And they weren't going to let anybody deter them from that. So maybe it's a good idea for him to come out and make a statement, even though it was so long ago. And Chauncey is one of these guys that's been pretty much embraced around the league from his playing days up through assistant. And, he's been talked about as a front office position. I mean, he's one that doesn't have any sort of stains on his.
He didn't even when he was at ESPN as a commentator.
Yeah, he didn't have any stains on his persona until, recently. So I think it's a combination of people being taken aback and then, also, Portland deciding to do what they do. Ultimately, I think it'll kind of fade away probably after this week because it's nothing really grotesque. But it probably doesn't look that great to kind of tuck it away, as quietly as they did. I will say, though, on the Becky Hammon note, getting back to that, we may see a backlash against the NBA as an institution if Becky's not hired at all.
Right.
She's been passed over for this job, and I'm starting to see it bubble up a little bit as, why is somebody that qualified not getting a head coach job? So I'm not saying I can 100% agree, but it's something that I kind of see kind of being swept in, especially if maybe in my opinion, she might just choose to go back to San Antonio rather than take a really bad job like in Orlando. But just that's something to kind of keep your eye on.
Don't worry, Ted is coming. Ted and Tommy, they're coming.
That's the most alarming part about it. I'm not going to get into the whole Chauncey Billups thing because, I don't have all the details, and it was a long time ago, and it's coming up now. Not excusing it by any means. But like Jamal said, if she was up for that job and the person who was hired is a person who was accused of something like this against a woman, it's just
Right.
it just has a whole, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
It's terrible optics. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to
Yeah.
get to the politics of this in terms of the league is, it's a league that's owned by owners, right? Just like any sports league where they're kind of, shared
Right.
partnership. So I wonder how
Well,
these
this
backroom
is- this-
conversations go.
Yeah, right. And so this hire, though, I mean, one key aspect to it or key factor to the hiring was Damian Lillard's
Which makes sense.
reported,
Mhm.
vouching for Billups to become the head coach. So I think a lot of that factored into Pona's decision. Again, kind of just going back to the whole rape allegation. There's so much to unpack. There's so much that's unfounded from the case, like things like what drove them to eventually settling. How much did they settle for? We don't know any of this
Sure.
information.
Sure. Right.
Right, and these are very important parts to it. It's not like it's an ongoing trial, and things are starting to reveal as we learn about them. This happened 24 years ago.
Yeah.
Right, and so what happened, and the stories conflict so dramatically
Mhm.
to the point where, like, one side is saying that the girl wasn't even in that house, she was somewhere else, and then she ended up in that place where she found herself raped.
Right.
There's so much confliction that we read about now, that maybe there's something that Portland knows that we don't know. And again, to Zane or Jamal's point, it's the best thing to happen here is for Billups to come out and make a personal statement and say, this is what happened, be clear cut, transparent. No bullshit sob story that I was a kid and all this shit, this, that, and the other. Be
Yeah.
real about it, own up to it, and see where it takes you from there, because it can only, it may fade away in a week or so. I hope. I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But
I mean, it's going to fade away until he fails.
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point
So.
too. So keep it on the coaching theme here, and some more drama for your mama. Jason Kidd was also hired this week by the Mavs. So another fucking sicky situation here with Kidd and franchise leadership, not between each other, but two separate situations that have been going on. Talk about the Mavs first. The firing of Rick Carlisle and Donnie Nelson. That was
Parting
right amid.
ways.
Yeah.
As much as people say, mutually parted ways always means firing. Like in this case, I think Donnie Nelson and Rick Carlisle said deuces.
We can give it. Yeah, we can say that. Yeah, sure. I mean, Donnie Nelson was on that squad, for 24 years. The architect of 2 finals teams. Of course, yeah. So they're gonna call it like that, basically. But their separation was amid a messy dysfunction that was revealed by The Athletic, I believe. There was a conflict between Luka Doncic and the analytics guy that was hired by the front office.
Yeah.
These fucking nerds again, right? It just always comes back to these fucking nerds. It was the same analytics nerd who apparently had an unconventional spot in the chain of command or the organizational chart, overstepping his role with Mark Cuban's blessing. There was a power struggle that ensued.
And it's basically like a Moneyball situation where the Jonah Hill
Yes.
character
Yeah,
is inserting
yeah.
himself in.
Yeah, exactly. So that drove Nelson out. Carlisle is gone. He's now the Pacers head coach. Kidd is in. They got a new GM, Nico Harrison. Kidd signs a 4-year deal with the Mavs. Had a substantial relationship with Dirk Nowitzki. Michael Finley's part of that front office too. I didn't know
dope,
that.
dope.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Shout out to guys that we grew up watching and now.
Yes,
making good
always.
front office. James Jones, man.
James
who-
Jones.
James Jones.
who
We
was a
thought
nondescript player and he architected
Yeah.
the Phoenix
Yeah.
team. So that's just cool. to see.
Dan Marino.
Who?
Yeah. Who? And then you got Kidd, right? Who hasn't been the greatest tale
Yeah,
either
no.
for head coaches. He was fired from the Bucks. Rumored to have a rocky relationship with his players.
One small nugget about that though. He's
Yeah.
the only head coach that I've ever seen warm up his players pregame. He would warm up with Giannis like an assistant coach usually would. I
Oh,
always
really?
thought that was very
Yeah.
interesting.
I feel like that. Yeah, that's probably just like an instinct, I guess, for him.
Yeah, just
wanna be on the
only
board,
coach
yeah.
I've ever seen out of say 50 plus
But-
NBA coaches I've seen.
Yeah, but he's had a bad rep in the NBA sphere on a personal level. His basketball intellect has been raved about, never questioned, but his tactical, from a tactical standpoint, interpersonal skills have been constantly questioned. He's basically had a rep for burning bridges.
You know, it's funny when you look at the parallels here, right? You have two franchises who are having dysfunction with their point guards, right? So
yes.
the Blazers, you know, have a big shot player who's not a traditional point guard. I mean, he's a point guard, don't get me wrong, but he's more of a shoot first, big shot guy. They hire, you know, big shot Chauncey Billups, right? Mr. Big Shot. And then you have the Mavs who have this point guard who's a great distributor, you know, rebounds the ball, triple threat, triple double guy, and they hire a guy, another point guard who was one of the best triple double point guards, you know, of all time, great rebounder, great passer. And then when you look at this, there is a female head coach candidate, right, who's a female, obviously, and Jason Kidd has also been accused of domestic violence in the past.
Well, and Kids was more clearly documented too.
Yeah. I mean, this
shit was all in the press.
Yeah. And then we have the Chauncey thing now. It's pretty interesting.
It's a toxic kind of state right now. Like,
the NBA
PR this week has not been great, and they're gonna have to deal with it. There's gonna be some reckoning for it for sure.
Yeah.
Don't worry, it's not gonna be Wes Unseld. It's not gonna be Sam Cassell. It's gonna be Becky Hammond in DC.
All right, man. Look.
At this point,
we're not doing this.
At this point, I just gotta bang this drum until I'm either right or I'm wrong.
Neil is this close to rabbit holing into Becky Hammond's wiki page.
Yeah. There's gonna be.
How do you know I haven't already?
I mean, Kidd has been, like Abdullah mentioned, controversial. We all remember the spilling of the drink on the floor, and you can't seem to. And I don't know if let me just from Dallas. You look top down. Cuban's always been super involved, super hands-on. Yeah, very much, a face, kind of like a Steve Ballmer type, except a lot more vocal for the Mavericks. And you look at their GM hire outside the box a little bit. I wonder if that was kind of set up to give Kidd more of a semblance of control over personnel decisions. Because I'm just not super sold on his coaching ability. It also depends on who he fills out his staff with too, but I don't know.
I think he's certainly going to be interested in that role, in that higher up role, playing more of a basketball executive. I believe in Milwaukee, he tried to
and that's what
somebody called it like a little private coup that was going on. With Kidd trying to like slowly, gradually overstep his role.
I remember that.
So. Yeah,
I'm not super high on the hire of J. Kidd. I don't think he'll fail per se, but I don't think it's that home run hit that they ultimately need.
I've also heard that that Mark Cuban enjoys like dysfunction. Like he kind of feeds off of it.
Just probably feels like it creates competition, or
it creates competition. Exactly. Yeah. Right.
It's a business mindset.
Yeah, I'm about to say that's old school. Like
Yeah.
For me, I think just all of the vacancies that have been filled haven't really taken any of the top candidates I want for the Wizards off the board. So as much as they've
we're doing it again.
I told you it's going to be like 3 times. Tommy Shepard's going to take his sweet time, and it's not going to backfire on him. I always got to plug Tommy.
Well, look, not to drag it out, but if you look at the openings now, this is the most attractive job that's left. I would, even with Zion in New Orleans, I would take this over New Orleans or Orlando, and I don't think anything else open besides the 3.
No, I think those are the 3 left.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
You would take it over New Orleans?
I would,
especially
just because
with
of
the dysfunction coming out about Zion's family.
Only because, that thing, and the fact that New Orleans is just a younger team. They got fucking Eric Bledsoe running point. Like, I don't know if they are as close as they think they are. So I would take Washington over New Orleans personally.
New Orleans is going to pay Nick McMillan like $40 million.
Yeah, really. Nate's about to get paid.
Crazy.
All right, man. We'll see how this coaching shit unfolds. We're counting the weeks down. Let's see if next week we can talk about the Wizards actually being relevant in a coaching story. Well, moving on. Fuck, man. Kevin Durant. Again, double dipping in Twitter drama. The highlight of that, of course, is the back and forth with Scottie Pippen. He went at Jackie McMullen, but this shit is just fucking. I've been a critic of social media in certain aspects, and one of it is enabling people to just be able to freely speak at any given time. And I feel like, especially as a sports fan, I don't want to hear or read some of my favorite players just always feeding into bullshit.
He can't.
And then
help himself.
he can't help himself. And there's two parts to this. I think Pippen is stupid as well for a lot of the shit that he said, but then it just trickles down to like the fans reacting, and then all of a sudden Pippen becomes Andre Iguodala, right? And then Pippen comes back and says shit like Bron won with no help, and Kevin Durant could never be in LeBron's shoes. And then of course Durant responds to this.
Scotty needs to shut the fuck up.
Scotty needs to shut the fuck up.
Scotty has been on the mic all week just saying dumb shit.
Too much.
I don't know where he came from, and if he's trying to get on a platform somewhere.
You saw the Kwame Brown. You saw the Kwame Brown reactions, man. He's like, I need my own shit.
Did he need that?
Kwame's going to end up on Fox News before the end of the summer. I'm telling you, a lot of American flags in his live streams. Now I'm like, yeah, you're gonna be like that Black.
Did you see the big Q? Did you see the big Q in the background?
Did he really have one?
I'm fucking with you.
I was about to say, wouldn't be surprised at this point.
I can already read the responses to like his bit on Fox News, like by the viewers, like he's such an intelligent,
He tells it like it is.
He speaks so well.
He's so well spoken.
He speaks raw.
What the fuck to speak so well, man?
You should run for president.
You should run.
How the fuck you expect him to speak?
Hey, look, fucking
so well.
Herschel Walker's running for Senate. Well, Kwame will get his day. I'm telling you.
Yeah, just off the Twitter mentions, man.
Yeah.
CJ Pearson, all these motherfuckers. You're such a smart kid.
All right, sorry to pull you guys into the darkness.
But yeah,
Scotty,
Scotty,
I know you.
This is like you said, like Abdullah said, people coming out, shitting on Scotty's career. Like it just goes 50 fucking different directions, right? Of like criticism of him as a player, and then bringing up the Kukoc thing, and then now the Kukoc thing turned into calling Phil Jackson a racist.
Oh.
And now and part of the other thing is like this old head shit where like people look at like early 90s basketball, late 80s, like it was like,
oh my god,
today is just fucking bullshit.
Dude,
to
the
what
way they
doing.
talk about 80s ball, man, like
it's fucking insane.
You wouldn't be
Oh,
able to,
you played
Trae
against
Young
a bunch of.
Trae Young couldn't cross half court in 1980.
Get
Shut the
fuck
fuck
out
up,
He
man.
would yank
Shut
the
up.
fuck out of everybody.
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
or to
Shut
say
up.
that Jordan's competition was a bunch of plumbers or dishwashers.
Yeah,
like,
Here's the thing, man.
Seriously.
There was like 5 fucking good teams in some of those years in the 80s, man. It's the same motherfuckers every year.
Yeah.
8 of
Every
them
year.
were on the Celtics.
Right.
And fucking 6 of them were on the Lakers, and they were
Right.
just playing each other. And then,
Right.
oh, the defense was so much like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Motherfuckers are averaging
Like,
like,
with-
150
like-
points in the playoffs.
Yeah, like when the Bulls eventually beat the Pistons, like seeing the Pistons lose in 89 or 90 was like the most unforeseen thing by fans at that point, because there was no way, like, there was only a handful of teams that were downright invisible, and Detroit was one of those teams. Like the way when they lost, it was such a shock around the NBA. I mean, obviously everyone knew that Jordan was on the come up, but no one was used to Detroit actually being overwhelmed the way they were in that series because of how strong they were in the previous seasons. But yeah, so I get it. But you can tell now on social media who is a YouTube fan and who actually was around during that era.
Pretty much.
Hey, just at me
Like,
next
it's
time.
very certain. No,
He would average 50 points in today's NBA.
Yeah. But on that note, Neil, like I've seen young kids, young dudes your age that actually believe and they still feel, how good Michael Jordan or some of those guys in the 90s were, and give them their due props. So very few of them, but
yeah. For me, all my friends are, LeBron's so good. I'm like, watch The Last Dance. Think about that. Then make your decision.
Yeah. But it's more than certain that KD has a TweetDeck column with his name, as
the search bar.
The search
Queuing
bar
up.
queued up.
He
So
just
anytime he
can't fucking
sees his
stay off
name,
Twitter, like he's like Donald Trump, like just sitting in a room at fucking 1 a.m, like reading shit, like searching his name to see who said something about it.
Yeah.
And then the worst thing about Twitter is everything's out of context, right? So you just take a snippet,
Everything.
and then he's just fucking replying to it, like not even whatever. Let me stop, man.
He's the Wale of the NBA, man. Well, I'll get into my Wale bit on another show, man.
We don't need to talk about that guy.
Wale and Hoop District got history.
Got beef.
We got bad history. Yeah.
Bad.
Well, that's another bit. So all right, we'll leave it at that with KD. Let's wrap up Open Gym. We had a crazy weekend in boxing. Of course, our resident fight analyst, the Daisy Al Bernstein, watched all of it.
Hate Al.
Daisy Al.
I try to go with the shittiest names in like boxing media to
clearly
to align with you. So anyway.
Clearly.
Nakatani ended in
Lomachenko, yes.
Lomachenko. I knew he was gonna fuck that up.
Shouldn't have even
I'm also
tried.
pretty drunk. Yeah. Ended in the 9th round TKO. He fucked up Nakatani, man. Like Nakatani's head.
I was just thinking.
His head was just like he looked so awful every time he got hit.
And he was just like on the floor, like he got knocked down. He's like,
yeah, and like
he's like pointing over there, and he's like, "Fuck! When I get home, they're gonna cut off my fucking head. My dad's gonna have to fucking sacrifice himself in some fucking ritual with the fucking katana or some shit."
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead. Lead the way. I was gonna mention.
Yeah, so there was
Tank
no.
Davis.
I mean, there was a UFC fight, but it came on like 5 p.m., 7 p.m. or some shit. I don't even know who was fighting. But boxing had a really good weekend, man. You had Lomachenko fighting and Tank Davis, who hover around somewhat of the same weight class. They're two of the best fighters in the world. And both events came on concurrently, essentially. One was on Showtime, one was on ESPN. So the Lomachenko fight started a little earlier. Lomachenko in his last fight lost to Teofimo Lopez, which was kind of a weird fight. It was such a great matchup, and Lomachenko for the first 6 rounds essentially did nothing, barely threw any punches. Came on strong in the last 6 rounds. He thought it was a draw, but he lost unanimously. So this is his first fight back. He had shoulder surgery immediately after that fight with Teofimo Lopez, and now he's fighting almost a year later, 10 months later. And Nakatani was the guy who gave Teofimo Lopez his toughest fight, right? So the logic here was, if I want a rematch, I'm going to fight the guy that gave Teofimo Lopez the most trouble, right? He's a taller guy, 5 inches taller, 71-inch reach for 135, 140 pounder. And he basically demolished Nakatani, and
he got fucked up.
He got fucked up. He fucked him up. And Lomachenko is just an amazing fighter to watch. If you haven't watched him, his nickname is the Matrix. His defense is amazing. His combinations, his footwork, just a fun fighter to watch. One of the best amateur fighters ever. I think he lost once. He had a 401 amateur record.
Damn, what the fuck?
So he's only lost like 3 fights. He's 14-2 right now. He's lost 3 fights, one to Lopez, who's a good fighter also. So he basically got in that ass, and afterwards, now there's discussions of a rematch. So we're hoping in a few months, or within 6 months, we get a rematch. Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez is could be the biggest fight of the year, even with the Wilder Fury and Spence Pacquiao. So that was a great fight. Same time the Tank Davis fight started, he moved up 2 weight classes, fought a guy at 140, Marco Barrios, who is much, bigger than him, obviously, much, stronger guy naturally because of his weight. And this was a really good fight. Tank was really trying to get inside, no homo. Oh, we'll have to cut that out. Pause. Yeah.
Pause.
Cut that out. Yeah, we'll have to cut that out. Yeah, so he was trying to basically, get inside. Fuck, I did it again. Okay. So, he had a major reach disadvantage and height disadvantage. Shit.
He horny.
So, long story short, you're watching this fight. I'm rooting for Tank Davis. I think all of us are rooting for Tank Davis, because we all like him as a fighter. And, about 8-9 rounds in on the unofficial scorecard, he's down, right? He is down, and we're waiting for the eventual knockout. Tank eventually knocks everybody out, but it didn't look too good early on. It seemed like he couldn't hurt Barrios. It seems like he was landing punches, he wasn't hurting him, and he was also getting hit. And basically, once you got towards the latter rounds, he, lands 2 flash knockdowns, but Marco Barrios recovers, and he kind of makes his way up on the scorecard, so he might be still down. And before the last round where Tank knocks him out, Mayweather's basically not in his corner, but he's literally on the side of the ring talking to him, right? And it's crazy because you're watching, he's trying to listen to his trainer, and here's Floyd's just butting in on the side, right, down low. And he keeps trying to talk to him. And as soon as Floyd talks, Tank's looking to the left, right, ignoring everything the trainer's saying. So it's very awkward, and it's very, kind of not contentious, but it seemed very dysfunctional But literally Mayweather told him, he said, on the unofficial scorecard, you're down. He's like, I got to be honest with you. That's what you want from me. You don't want nobody lying to you.
Okay.
I'm 100 with you. That's my job. You are down.
Yeah.
What happens?
Okay.
Tank comes out, knocks him down with the body shot, comes back, you know, lands a few more shots. Ref calls it off. It's over. Tank wins the fight. He basically, you know, I mean, obviously what they ended up finding out is on the scorecards, Tank was way up, but that seemed kind of weird, honestly, if you watch the fight. Everybody kind of had Tank down on the scorecard. So, and then he does a crazy backflip off the top rope. It was just it was a great night for boxing. But like I said, I noticed a lot of people who shit on boxing, the same people who shit on all the time, I didn't see any of them post anything about these fights because they didn't fucking watch them.
By the way, body shot knockdowns and knockouts are fucking superb. Like,
oh yeah. It's just
a good headshot is one thing, but to see a motherfucker get buckled off of a kidney shot or like a rib shot. I'm thinking like the Roy Jones. It was a Virgil Hill that he knocked out. Like Virgil Hill hit the mat and like froze in place because his rib was broken. It's just
same thing with Oscar De La Hoya. He got the liver shot for Bernard Hopkins. Tough as nails, Oscar De La Hoya. Never got knocked down.
Yeah.
Gets hit with that liver shot. Looks like nothing, and he's crying on the floor, just wincing in pain.
Yeah, it's good shit.
So it's definitely it's a crazy thing to see. So 2 great fights. And then a couple weeks we got 3 or 4 weeks we got Wilder Fury. So looking forward to that.
Yes, sir. Is that July 10th or 24th?
It's 24th. July 10th is Conor McGregor.
Conor McGregor,
part
round 3.
Yep. Yeah. So.
All right. We might get an IG live out of us after one of those fights. Maybe not.
Nah,
we'll
it's gonna be 1 a.m.
Yeah, right.
We'll see who the real fans are.
All right, man. Thanks for dropping that knowledge. We got some fresh flicks. We got one fresh flick for y'all this week on the docket. We also got some fan mail to address in theater. So we're going to get right to it. All right, yo. Fast 9 out in theaters. Jamal, the ever so adventurer, now that COVID mandates have been lifted, going to the movies again. This is your second time going to the movies, huh?
Second movie, man.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
Almost back up and I'm in there, baby.
I dig it. This time you went out to see Fast 9. Take it away, man.
Yeah, you know, not a lot. I mean, if you know the Fast series, no plot, just a bunch of like fucking raw adrenaline. It's like Mountain Dew in movie form, you know.
Yeah.
So this is start.
It's like the Crank movies after the first one. Like it was just a bunch of just adrenaline driven, no plot.
Yeah, lots of shit blowing up from the jump. I will say, you know, related to the movie, but unrelated to the actual, you know, the film itself is. With theaters being open now, it's the second movie I've gone to. There's really still not a lot of people. And when I say not, like a handful of people in the theater, shit is loud as fuck, man. Like there's nothing to capture that sound. So every movie I see sounds twice as loud as normal.
Jeez.
Yeah, I had the kids were with me, and then they were saying it was just like too over the top. But yeah, you know, just it's adrenaline, it's action, it's absurdity, just like any other Fast movie. Usual cast: Vin, Luda, Tyrese. John Cena was like the antagonist in this case. Yeah, lots of interesting shit, like you know, driving over collapsed bridges, a chase scene through like the UK with a gigantic magnet like fucking shit up, and then the culmination was this, you know, fucking car that what's his name, Bow Wow and his boy put together that was strapped to a rocket and then projected into outer space with Luda and Tyrese driving that crashed into a satellite. Just, I mean, if you wanted to, they one up themselves in each kind of third of the movie with something even more crazy. Just
it's basically like a Key and Peele skit at this point, right?
Very good point. Very good point. By the way, shout out to Bow Wow, who's had his verses with Soulja Boy on Saturday.
Yeah, he did.
And use his presence in F9 to flex on Soulja Boy. Like, I gotta rap no more. Like, I'm in a fucking movie franchise. Like, yeah, fuck with me. Yeah. So if you want like, you know, 2 hours or so of just absurdity, and you want something to, it's entertainment. They try to have some serious moments every now and then, but even those are fucking laughable. Then, you know, fuck with it. I mean, it's a good time filler on a weekend.
I didn't get a chance to see it quite yet because my freaking cousin had to go and get bronchitis. But I'm gonna, as the resident,
please tell us about this story, Neil.
As the resident rocket fan,
what caused the bronchitis?
I don't fucking know. That's
What did you guys smoke out of? Like, you can see some like gravity bomb like, made out of.
So now that we're gonna do this
They
real
were
quick,
playing Taboo till 4 a.m. in their voices.
literally Saturday night.
Categories game got a little wild.
Saturday night he hits a J, and then by Sunday night this man was like, "Yeah, I have bronchitis," and I was like, "I hit the same fucking J. What the fuck are you talking about?"
Oh, you
bro?
lace that shit. You lace that
shit.
shit, man.
I don't know, but as the resident,
You just lost a smoke buddy, man.
it's
When you
okay.
get bronchitis off that smoke buddy, like the first time, like fuck, I ain't smoking with you no more.
Can't
man.
trust that motherfucker no more.
No,
You couldn't keep up anyway. Like I'm too
Oh.
hardcore
Oh,
anyway.
excuse me.
Oh shit. Oh.
But as the resident rocket scientist and space engineer, I'm gonna have to see, okay, how logically correct is some of their shit that they're pulling off, or are they just doing some stupid wild shit?
Please bring your notes to,
Yeah.
to the next
Week, man.
episode.
Actually, they should have launched the rocket at a 67-degree angle.
Oh.
Shit was crazy, man. It was stupid.
So we had it's funny, we had I went to go play basketball on Saturday, and a bunch of my boys were just talking about how bad Fast 9 was, and me, I'm just like, what the fuck did you expect? Like
Yeah.
the fucking 9th movie in an installment. And first of all, I saw the trailer, I'm like, okay, so you're trying to tell me John Cena, right? this tall, muscular, masculine man with a full head of hair is the jealous brother of the retired mechanic who's bald and not in the same physical shape that he is. First of all, that was a fucking huge red flag for me. Like, what the fuck kind of shit is this, right?
Hey, spoiler alert.
So then we were kind of joking around, and then it was funny. I dropped in the group chat. I was like, next thing you know, they're gonna fucking go to space. And then one of the guys was like, actually,
Well,
they
actually,
did.
yeah.
What the fuck? So then we got a listener mailbag actually from somebody I know, and it was basically like, what is Fast 10 gonna be like, right? Obviously, you know, I think we can kind of run wild with this. My idea was that there is a Russian hit out on Michelle Rodriguez's character Letty, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Vin Diesel comes with the plan that they have to travel back in time. He has to go back in time and break up with her, right? Before the original Fast and Furious movie, before the Paul Walker and everything, right?
Yeah.
So they run into Gene Hackman, who also hasn't been in a movie in like 8 years.
Gene
So
Hackman.
this is Gene Hackman's first movie back. And he's kind of playing that enemy of the state type character, like the guy who's like off the grid and like trying to help them and shit.
Is he like living in a cabin and shit?
Yeah,
I feel like
he's,
Gene
living in a cabin. in
Gene
the
already
woods.
has stringy hair, so we just kind of need to keep that consistent.
Yeah, the stringy hair, and he's like super angry. He drinks like black coffee like 8 times a day.
Yeah.
Lives
Yeah,
off beef jerky.
the beard all wolfed out. Yeah.
Doesn't own a cell phone. There's a bunch of bad Twitter, Facebook, MySpace, Facebook, and Instagram jokes in there where they mention.
He's basically a wildling at this point.
Yeah, he's like, what the fuck is that? We need to get back in time to stop the Russians from this hit. And then the new comedic relief character is Blake Griffin, who plays pickup basketball with one of the other, with Tyrese. Actually, no, he did 2 years in prison with Tyrese, because we all know Tyrese's character, you know, did a prison stint. He did 2 years, and Tyrese brings him along, so he's the comedic relief.
Cool.
That's pretty much it.
I'm thinking too, like, let's have the Russian antagonist also be involved in like the electric car industry. So there's going to be kind of a subplot of they're trying to eliminate the muscle cars and like the gas and
no more NOS. No more NOS.
Yeah, but this Russian guy wants to actually implement, you know, electric vehicles around the world because that's the future, right? So he's a magnate, and he's trying to piece together, like, he needs the special metal to mass produce these batteries around the world, and you know the old brass is kind of fighting back against that with power and you know, the U.S. muscle, fucking Camaros and Dodge Chargers and shit like that.
So he's not running a Tesla with spoon engines.
Regardless of how you know the plot summary pans out, like, one thing about Fast is always like there's always like that one key cameo, like at the end of the movie, or like somewhere in the middle of the movie.
Yeah,
So
like somebody shows
how,
up and
however this ends, like, you know, you just have like Michael J. Fox like in the DeLorean, just like revving that shit up. Like, he can even play like a Russian. He can be like
well, the Russians are in the Back to the Future, whatever.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. There you
wherever
go.
they were from. Yeah.
And it just
Does he
it
kind of
just-
pull up and like put the window down and like hang his arm out the window
Yeah.
and say like
Yeah.
a like a
It's
pun
not
or
even a
something?
tinted window. It's like a dusty window. It just like kind of pulls down. Like
He has to actually roll it down like the shit's like
Yeah,
tricky
just roll
and
down,
shit.
yeah,
Yeah,
just-
yeah.
And then the
You just
fucking
kinda-
Migos is playing. It's not even a song from like 1980.
Yeah, yeah,
fucking
yeah.
Migos, and then
That's
that's
how-
the credits.
That's how the closing credits come out.
So the credits go out.
Song and MJ and Michael J. Fox. It's hilarious.
Offset. Culture.
Oh my god! All right, man. Hey, this is why we need more fan mail, man.
Yeah.
We do have another fan mail, right? I think we got.
We do,
another
yeah, we have another one.
We got another bang in the stash. Yeah.
Jamal, I think you pulled this one out.
Yep. So we were asked, I think who would we want to see in a biopic? If you were to get a biopic popping, in the near future, whose story would you want to see?
So I'm gonna take the comedian angle. There's two comedians I would really like to see, kind of how their life evolved to the end. One is Robin Williams. Obviously, we talked about depression and anxiety earlier in the show, and kind of a comedian, an entertainer, a celebrity's way of being able to use that skill and talent to cover up what's underneath, to the point where no one sees it coming.
Yeah.
Very few were able to kind of see through some of the comedy and see some of the pain underneath. But for the most part, a naive person wouldn't have been able to see it. I didn't see it much. I was still shocked when he actually did take his own life.
Sure. Yep.
Because you just see those kind of people that on the surface, obviously outside of being rich and being a celebrity and a movie star, but just being happy-go-lucky every time you see him on the screen.
Yeah.
Right.
Every guest appearance, every interview. So that would be a very interesting biopic to see, just to see that the way things kind of transpired over the course of his life to the end. And then again, like I said, sticking to the comedy theme, George Carlin. What intrigued me most about him as a comedian, having a long-lived career and being a comedian through different eras in history, and aligning your comedy and your opinions, whether it be your politics or just your general reaction to society, aligning with those periods of time in history from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s into the 2000s until he died. Always intriguing to me, and I would love to see that kind of portrayed in a sort of a biopic that kind of really detailed his story in that manner, from that perspective.
Sure.
I thought of a few. It was tough to think of this because a lot of these biopics, they've came out and like people you think of and like, oh shit, and you Google it and you're like, this shit came out like 8 years ago with fucking some
it's probably like
some
really
shit.
shitty.
Yeah, it's really shitty or wasn't done well. I'm gonna name off a few that. So it's funny. Growing up, I love the Jackson 5 miniseries. I don't know if you guys have seen. It's one of my fucking. It's come on VH1 all the.
I've had glances of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so you should definitely watch. It's really good for what it is. It's good because it's mostly based around the Jackson 5 and them growing up with obviously their dad and their mom and their childhood growing up in Gary, Indiana. So Michael Jackson was one person I thought of, but then I was like, that's probably a tough one. I also thought of Miles Davis, and then I realized there was a Miles Davis biopic with like Don Cheadle in it, like 4 or 5 years ago or some shit. Which I haven't seen, which I really want to see because I'm a big Miles Davis fan. And he was such an eccentric personality, very blunt, very harsh guy, but obviously
Cheadle's a dead ringer for the look of Miles Davis too.
He is,
but when you get into like the Bitches Brew era, like he kind of really went left, that'd be fantastic to capture.
Oh yeah, definitely from Blue and Green to fucking. I mean, it's fucking nuts. So that was another one, and then the other person I was thinking of was Sammy Davis Jr. I was definitely would be interested in something like that because I can see in that kind of biopic, I could see the story developing from being a man of color and obviously growing up, how he grew up, and then going on to do what he did and the people he worked with, and performing and all the shit he probably went through. You know what I mean? And then lastly, the one was Frank Sinatra, right? That's obviously one. I don't know if there's been one done. I know Martin Scorsese was saying he had regretted not making one earlier. I don't know if he's going to make one. And obviously, like with Frank Sinatra, there's a lot of backstories. Like a lot of people don't know the Johnny Fontaine character in Godfather is basically based on Frank Sinatra, right? In terms of the mafia was getting him gigs and doing him favors, and obviously, taking a cut, from him for having him perform in Vegas. So those are the ones I thought of.
Cool. So for mine, I went when I was thinking about mine, I thought about people that had kind of multiple acts to their lives, right? So the first person I thought of, which is timely because he has a versus on Thursday, I think it's Thursday, with against Keith Sweat, is Bobby Brown. There's been a lot of Whitney Houston movies, series, and so on and so forth, but Bobby's been through a ton of shit. I mean, from going from, you know, the youngest, kind of the greatest, one of the greatest R&B groups ever, most successful, to solo career, to obviously all the drug issues with Whitney and his daughter dying and a lot of different shit. And the fact that I mean, let's be real, man. Like, a lot of people are so surprised that Bobby's on this earth, but the fact that he's still here and thriving is still, you know, he looks good. Last time I saw him, he looked like he was in great shape, and you know, he's been through a ton of shit. But I always wanted to hear his story, you know, put together really well. The other one is a little bit of a sports related, but a little bit of curveball. Meta, now he goes by Meta Sandiford Artest, Ron Artest, Meta World Peace, whatever you want to call him.
Shit,
That motherfucker's had a life too, man.
Yeah,
and you talk.
I'm always down for a Queensbridge story.
Yeah, you see it, man. And you talk about somebody that's you know, worked through mental issues also. Like I think he's launched a platform now that's really geared toward kind of young athletes and coming up and trying to find a space for that. But he's very open about the stuff that he's been through mentally, and you know, how you can kind of, you know, help people. So every time
Ron Artest, I'm sorry, man. Ron Artest wrote a song about Afghan women. He wrote an actually, I'm gonna throw it in the chat right now. We might close out with this song.
I don't know, right? I'd never heard about that shit.
It's called Afghan Women. He made an official music video. And I don't. And again, to your point about Ron Artest, he's such an interesting figure. I don't know where he drew the intrigue or interest for Afghan women to create this song. It came out of the blue, and obviously the diaspora just pounced on it. Yeah. I had to throw that out there, but
humble dude too, and I think people, because his reputation preceded him for, especially late in his career, you know, people just like to fuck with him. So everything he did was like tremendously under a microscope. But he's got such an interesting like arc to his life. His son, I think, is in college playing ball now. Just to kind of show our age a little bit, but I always want to hear his story, man. He's a super interesting guy. So those are my two.
When he told Craig Sager, "Say Queensbridge," remember that?
You never hear about the story where they were asking him about like physical basketball games and fights, and he was like, "Oh, this is nothing." He's like, one time he was playing outside in Queensbridge, and these two dudes got in a fight, and there was a wood table on the side, and he took off one of the legs, and he threw it at him, and went right through the dude's heart. He died.
Right there. Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
He was like,
yeah.
He drove a stake through his heart. I was like,
some dude, I think it was Dragonfly Jones on Twitter, had like made like a little comedic response to that story, and somebody from Queensbridge who was on the court that day and saw the whole thing the way it happened. He went off. He was like, "Yo, that shit wasn't. That dude had a name. His name, he shouted the dude's name out. He's like, "Yo, we were devastated about that shit."
Oh shit, I gotta find that.
Yeah. So,
two quick things. So, shout out Craig Sager. It would have been his 70th birthday today.
Oh
yeah, I saw him. Yeah, I saw him trending today. Yeah.
On a similar note to the Ron Artest, you know, somebody, and of course, Sam's gonna say, "Oh, I had to tie it back to the Wizards a little bit," but Caron Butler also had a very
Karan's had a hell of a story. Yeah,
like this dude very easily could have been incarcerated for a very long time. I think with heavily involved with drugs.
Racine, Wisconsin, man. Racine.
Well, he played for the Wizards, so he was incarcerated for a good amount of time.
But I think he is working with Mark Wahlberg, and that's actually a biopic that I think is in the works. So that's definitely something that I'm looking forward to.
Mark Wahlberg is going to play Caron Butler?
No, I don't know. I don't think it's that. I think it's probably Wahlberg's production team or whatever it is.
I'm surprised Wahlberg hasn't tried out for more black roles after Four Brothers.
Oh, my God.
Great movie, by the way, Four Brothers.
Good movie. Agreed.
Let's just throw Four Brothers in the theater next week for the fuck of it, man.
If we get a Caron movie, I want to see him spend a good 30 minutes to an hour on when he got the fucking hairpiece. Remember, he got the man weave, and he got cooked, and then he took that shit right back off.
Yeah, you know who got to play the biopic, right? It's got to be Fredro Starr, right?
Fredro Starr.
Look, he has the bona fides, man. He was fucking Sunset Park. Like, he can play a role.
There you go. Hey, by the way, that Sunset Park soundtrack is fantastic.
Sunset
while we
Park,
in theater.
Above the Rim, like those are fucking very
Great
exceptional
fucking
soundtracks. Yeah.
Yes, sir. I totally agree. All right, man. Well, that's it. We're gonna wrap this thing up, get into Detention right quick. We only got one motherfucker in this joint tonight. One or two. We had one, but all right. Who's up first? Fucking Jay Williams. This bitch ass motherfucker. I never really cared for Jay Williams as an analyst to begin with. Like he always
me neither. Just because he was a Duke guy.
I was gonna say, did you really hate him before because he was a Dookie, or did it emerge? Because his story makes you feel for him, but he's not great. He's not that good.
Still.
Yeah. So we all saw the tweet. It comes out in response to Woj's announcement about the Celtics finalizing an agreement with Udoka as the new head coach. He comes out and says, "Oh, the first head coach of color in Celtics franchise history. Even more importantly,
what the fuck, man? Like what?
Did you not just see Doc Rivers in the motherfucking NBA Finals a few years ago? Like, and then the four other black coaches before him.
Bill Russell.
Casey Jones, Bill Russell.
And then he comes out and says, "Oh, I was hacked." Boy, shut the fuck up.
Because that's exactly what I would do if I hacked somebody.
He said I changed my password though.
He said passcode, didn't he?
Passcode.
Passcode. Yeah, I changed my passcode. That's when I knew you were fucking lying.
Yeah, it's bad. Just take the L, man. You fucked up.
Who the hell?
So that's that.
Usually you hack your Twitter out of everybody in the world.
Yeah, you're not that guy, pal.
That's what I'm saying.
No. I've seen Twitter. I've seen enough Twitter fuck ups over during my time being on the app, and the safest thing to do is just tweet through it. Take a break for at least a day, 24 hours. Take a break. Don't tweet.
Let the news cycle change over.
Tweet some irrelevant shit. You know what I mean? This motherfucker just kept on tweeting through it for about 4 tweets in, and then decided to put out his I got hacked shit.
That ain't it.
So
that
Jay
Duke
Williams
education for you, terrible.
Yeah.
Go to a real school like the University of Maryland.
And we're gonna wrap this up. We have one more dude. We did have one more guy. Pooh Shiesty. Probably haven't heard more than 2 lyrics of this motherfucker rapping, but he ends up getting locked up, gets indicted off of an alleged shooting and robbery outside of a hotel. I believe this was in Florida, but they were able to track him down by retrieving some of the $100 bills that apparently had matching serial numbers to the money that he was flaunting on an Instagram post. This is some Bobby Shmurda shit over here, man.
It is, man. Fucking embarrassed for him, man.
Yeah, but again, man, stop advertising your crimes, your money and shit like that. I had some dude, from some of the people that I know locally here that just broadcast their shit, jumping some dude in a bathroom and like the fuck,
it's a
man?
big thing now. It's a really big thing now.
Stop publicizing your crimes and shit, man. Like
a lot of rappers are getting indicted from like their YouTube interviews. It's happened. Like Nick Casanova was on the Nick Cannon. That was part of the affidavit when he got arrested.
That's crazy. Well, look, if y'all ever look into I think we talked about Jacksonville, like hip hop scene, all these young dudes are killing each other and then rapping about it. And putting the people they killed in the songs, like
putting them in the song.
Chicago thing.
So they're using that shit in court against
stealing
other
that from
people.
Chicago.
Yeah, same shit. They did all that shit gets used as evidence against them because they can't keep their mouth shut. So, oh man, just to fuck off social media.
Yeah, pretty much, man. Like
Words
I said,
to live by.
It's been an enabler for the good and the bad. Mostly for the bad if you're a celebrity or an athlete.
Free AR app.
Off that shit. Free AR app, man. For real.
I was going to say that.
Listen, man, I'm booking up my itinerary for my cross country trip, man. Shout out to Eric Parsons once again for showing up, coming through, giving us his live story. That was awesome to have him on. The cross country trip reminds me of that one Family Guy episode where Quagmire has his Wannabago. He calls it the Wannabango. And it's one of those subtle jokes where Peter Griffin goes, "Doesn't country have an O in it?" Because he had cross country on his Wannabago. Oh my God. I love that shit. Listen, man. Hey, we finally exceeded 2 hours. Like I said, we was gonna do one of these weeks. We never got enough stuff to talk about, man. We're gonna wrap it up right there. For Jamal, for Zane, for Neil, for Eric Parsons, for myself, Abdullah Sharif, the PTP podcast. We up and out. Holla.